So this is how I redesigned my home network. I was looking for a different router that would do VLANs, things like that. A coworker recommended this Ubiquiti Cloud Gateway unit thing on the bottom here. This just like a normal router, it's a port that goes into your modem, and then because there's a different Ubiquiti unit that had more ports on it, but it was good $150 more. It just seemed kind of silly to do that for what things I didn't really need. And the little Netgear switch here was like $20, and it's a managed switch, which is what I needed for VLANs. Technically, you can do a lot of the new switches will just pass VLANs too, but if you want to actually configure ports, you need a managed switch. So that's why I went with that one. And I figured that way, if later on I can change the router out to something else, I still have a switch. I don't have to replace that right away, and I can use that for other things. And I looked around at different APs. I had Netgear before that was obsolete out in the garage, and I found this one. This was kind of similar. It's a low end, I wouldn't say it's an enterprise, just a business type router. This particular one's there's two variants of this. It has the SKU on it was like WAX 210. One had the PWR on it. Couldn't figure out what that was. Eventually I figured it out, and I had a power brick. These will run PoE, but I don't have PoE here, so I just run it off a power brick. And internet comes in here into the Ubiquiti. That does NATing, DHCP, a lot of other features for like tracking traffic, signing VLANs, making VLANs, things like that. Anyway, you have a couple ports on here. One goes off to an energy system that tracks the power out of the breaker box. And then there's another one, a couple go to a NAS box that I'm not using. Thing underneath here at the moment. And then this one's what would be called a trunk port. So that passes multiple VLANs out of this into this little Netgear switch. And then that passes multiple VLANs out on a split up port to the AP, which allows me to have a internal Wi-Fi and an external. I use the external for a lot of IoT things, smart cameras, thermostat, whatever. A lot of IoT things aren't really known to be secure, so that's why they're on the guest side. And there's also a port on here that's on the guest LAN for the breaker unit that measures power in the breaker box. And then there's another trunk port out of here going to the garage to another switch that also runs another AP and has a couple other IoT things hardwired onto it. And then, of course, here's a UPS unit to keep all this stuff powered for a little bit if the power goes out. And I found at least the main reason for that UPS is for a sump pump monitor system. That'll tell you if you lose power, things like that. I don't know for sure if that runs on a heartbeat type system or if it loses power, it can somehow trigger something through the Wi-Fi here, and then it activates the alarm. That is kind of a little bit of a more secure way to set up a home network. Keeps the IoT things separate and the internal LAN. I'd like to also have like a management VLAN, but these mini switch they don't support setting a management VLAN, so you just gotta use the default one on those, unless they come out with a patched firmware sometime for those.